Hey guys, Noel here, and it is Tuesday, and before we go about our business for today, I thought it would be fun for us to do a video game review for the video game section of the YouTube channel. Now, if you watch this channel, you know that I am a member of the NWO, right, and a fan of professional wrestling, so we've got quite a few professional wrestling reviews on the channel. So I was a big fan of the NWO, WCW, Monday Nitro, all that good stuff. And while WWF in the early 2000s was definitely good with some quality stuff like Run DMC, Degeneration X, I always preferred WCW because I always thought they still had the best stars: Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Sting, Macho Man, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, all that awesome stuff. So I supported them right up to the end, okay? So, talking about the early 2000s, two big wrestling games came out at around 2001. One was this game, which we reviewed on the channel, WWF No Mercy, and while I think this game might be a little overrated, because I just like the WCW games a bit better, this is unquestionably one of the best wrestling games ever made. Now, before that game came out, there was a game that went by the title of WCW Mayhem, and Eric Bischoff, on his podcast, I think erroneously brags about striking a deal with Electronic Arts to make WCW video games. This game is certainly not bad. It's actually got really beautiful graphics and some decent gameplay, but compared to No Mercy and the THQ distributed Aki Asmic games, it's pretty weak as far as the WCW roster of video games. But Mayhem was pretty good, and it had a sequel, and the sequel had an awesome roster, and that game goes by the title of WCW Backstage Assault. And while WWF No Mercy came out right around this time, and WWF No Mercy was one of the best wrestling games ever made, this, unfortunately, is one of the worst wrestling games ever made. We don't normally review games that I don't like, but this is going to be one of those days. So, let's sit back and enjoy a review of WCW Backstage Assault, a game that is truly disappointing, but does have some nice things here and there. Well, here we see our title screen. So I'm going to actually hit the lights, and we'll enjoy the attract mode right now. The reason we're watching the intro to this game is partly because I like watching intros to video games, but partly because the intro to this game is essentially the best part of this game. Well, that plus the mini character entrances, which have full motion video montages with characters' theme songs. But graphically, this game is, it's not great, to put it mildly. WCW Mayhem, I thought is one of the best looking wrestling games of this time period, but, I don't know what happened with its sequel. Nothing good. Low budget, I don't know. There's WCW's new and confusing logo, which I, for years, didn't know even said WCW. Like WCW. I used to think that was a cross. Let's pump the volume up.
We're live and on the air with all the superstars of WCW wrestling.
So, we see here the best Vince Russo's WCW has to offer, sans the Millionaires Club versus New Blood. There's Disco Inferno, Jeff Jarrett, Sting, Kimberly Page, Stacy Keibler, Medusa, Booker T, Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid, the mysterious white Jeep, Major Guns, The Wall, Tony Schiavone's great commentary. So far so good, right? I think that was a pretty good opening to this game here. Really cool montage, nice music. The PlayStation, at this time, it's 2000, so its full motion video capabilities are super sharp and crisp. Nice opening screen. So far so good with this game. Let's focus on the positives. Nice spinning disc in the corner. That's aesthetically pleasing. You can tell it's not going to be good when I'm just clinging to any little thing I can talk about that's good. So, but the gameplay itself, as we were going to get into this game, it's not horrendous. This is just such an ugly game. Alright, so we see right off the bat we have a variety of options right here. We got Exhibition, Hardcore Challenge, which is what you have to basically play through a bunch of times to unlock things, which, considering how unengaging the gameplay is on this game, I find that kind of tedious. Hardcore Gauntlet, Create a Superstar, this is Hall of Champions, says who's got what belt, and then your options. For the purposes of this review, as always, I'm an exhibition arcade mode kind of guy, and we've got some options here. We're going to pump it down to easy for the purposes of this review. This helps the matches go a little bit more quickly, and since the gameplay, in my opinion, isn't very good, you kind of don't want these matches dragging out. So we've got our rosters, and right away, the character select screen, I think, is kind of awkward. It's a little weird that Jeff Jarrett is the marquee player for this game, considering, like, I like Jeff Jarrett. I'm a huge fan of TNA Impact, and when he had his mixed martial arts gimmick and married Karen Angle in real life, he really came into his own as a performer. But at this point in time, I don't think he was, that great, even though he was pushed very hard in WCW. But check this out. So we have all these, like, different WCW options here, and we just have to kind of toggle through, and you'll notice there's a lot of question marks that we have to unlock, which makes it kind of hard and confusing, I think, to find the characters that we're looking for. So if you're playing a WCW game, you're almost certainly going to want to jump to WCW 3, where you've got Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Sting, DDP, Miss Elizabeth, but they're, like, in the third option, and you gotta toggle through. Like, even, like, look at Bret Hart's in WCW 4 with Goldberg and Scott Steiner and Sid Vicious. So I don't know. In my opinion, the character select screen is a little disjointed. And the amount of hidden characters right off the bat is not great, in my opinion. But for the purposes of this review, let's actually take advantage of what this game's got going for it, which is some of the awesome wrestlers that WCW's got. So we're going to actually choose Hulk Hogan, and we'll have him fight Bret Hart. And, excuse me, lots of stuff is locked at this point. There's a lot of things you can unlock, and this is done to kind of manufacture replay value. The problem for me is, at least for my taste, this game is really not that fun to play, so I'm not really wanting to play this game, despite how much I'm incentivized to play it, to unlock all this stuff. And once you see what the wrestlers look like, it's going to get even worse. But right now, to be fair to this game, at this point in time in WCW, Bret Hart was out with a concussion, and Hulk Hogan and Vince Russo were, on the verge of suing each other. And when this game was sold also, there was a point when Hulk Hogan was just done with WCW. So this game has got a better roster than WCW had right when it went out of business. But let's see how it actually plays and how it looks. Nice, that's an awesome screen right there. Now check this out. So this is one of my favorite things about this game, and this is why the PlayStation version of this game is so much better than the N64 one, because the N64 one doesn't have these awesome little Titantron things. The only problem is they're way too short. Another major problem, this is not Bret Hart's theme music from WCW. So when Bret Hart came to WCW, he was given really bad theme music for his first two theme songs. But his third theme song, which he would have had at this point, I would say is arguably better than his WWF theme song. It's really, really good. And it's insane that they didn't put that in this game, because that is an amazing theme that Bret Hart's got. So I highly recommend you look up Bret Hart's third WCW theme, because it's really, really good. And that wasn't it. Kimberly is just smoking in that corner over there. And DDP, who we all know and love, is over there giving us some helpful tips. Use aerial attacks and play with fire when you get burned. Don't get burned. Don't set yourself on fire. That's not good. Set your opponent on fire in the game and not in real life. Now, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know who these people are, but these are not Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart. This looks like a random biker guy in tights, and Bret Hart looks like Xena Warrior Princess. And I'm going to say that there is actually a Xena Warrior Princess advertisement in the instruction manual for this game. So we'll take a look at that. But square buttons grapple, so that's a thing, which is good. And we've got circle, which allows us to punch.
Irish whip.
Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan are on the commentary team, which is really good. But these character models are abysmal. There's no excuse for this, especially considering how good WCW Mayhem looked. Like, WCW Mayhem played like a combination of WCW versus NWO Revenge and WWF Warzone. So it was like an above average wrestling game for sure, and it looked great. But these characters are almost unrecognizable outside of the fact that Bret Hart. It looks like Lucy Lawless wearing Bret Hart's clothes and a random biker dude. Now, this was supposed to be like Terry Bollea, which was kind of like hardcore Hulk Hogan. So when Vince Russo came to WCW, he didn't really know what to do with Hulk Hogan. Even worse than Eric Bischoff didn't know what to do with Bret Hart. Much worse than Eric Bischoff not knowing what to do with Bret Hart. So we got an Axe Bomber right there. So there was a period where Hulk Hogan was going by Terry Bollea and was wearing street clothes. So he looked cool enough, but it was kind of an awkward gimmick. And Hulk Hogan eventually re-embraced his Hollywood Hogan gimmick as a good guy, which was actually really cool. And then they just had this insane thing where he and Jeff Jarrett, I don't know, look at Bash at the Beach 2000. It's bad. It's bad. Like worked shoots gone wrong that lead to lawsuits, essentially. And no actual wrestling. Because Hulk Hogan wanted to win the match. Vince Russo wouldn't let him. Hulk Hogan's like, oh, well, and then they decided on this finish where it's like, well, Hulk, you don't even have to wrestle. Just let Jeff Jarrett lay down for you and walk out with the belt. That'll be riveting television. Which, the whole laying down for your opponent thing was like clever. When Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, I messed up. Square is how you pick up stuff. Like, there was one tag match where Scott Hall and Kevin Nash got tagged in at the same time, and Scott Hall just laid down for Kevin Nash because it didn't matter who won, they were both buddies. That was, like, really clever as kind of a rare thing to do in a tag match where the heels are outsmarting their opponents. Turning that into an excuse not to work, and then Vince Russo venting his grievances on Hulk Hogan in a public forum, that made no sense at all. Okay. I mean, if there's going to be a payoff for that, awesome. If not, no. Absolutely not. Now, okay. Tony Schiavone's commentary is awesome. Bobby Heenan's commentary is good. But, I don't know, it takes a lot for Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart not to be entertaining, especially with the idea of a backstage brawl. The concept of this game is pretty cool, right? But, like, the hit detection's not that great. I'm, like, swinging that pipe, and nothing's happening. We have life bars, which kind of let us know how we're doing as far as our... He tapped out. Oh, I submitted the submission master. Now here's another positive. I think they play Hulk's theme music. Yes, they do. So nice CD quality, and the picture, despite the horrendous character models that look like, you know, aliens wearing Halloween costumes of these pro wrestlers, that's not good. But the picture's nice and crisp. Nice CD quality sound, but these theme songs just aren't long enough. So it's like, I could be looking at really crappy character models with mediocre gameplay, but if like they were my favorite characters and their theme music was longer, like if you play WWF in your house for Sega Saturn, that game you can just straight up sit and listen to the character's theme music at the character selection screen, which is great. So I can like listen to Owen Hart's theme or Triple H's theme or Goldust's theme or Bret Hart's theme. But with this, it's like, okay, I've got Hulk Hogan's theme for like 5 seconds, and Hulk Hogan looks like an old guy that you'd see in a penny saloon or something like that, you know. Let's do another match. And we'll get creative here. Let's be Sting, and we'll have him fight... Man, this roster of characters off the bat is awkward. Disco Inferno. Let's have him fight Disco Inferno. Well, I think at this point was spelling his name with a Q or something. I don't know. This is Disco Inferno still. There was like at one point he was just calling himself Disco, which was like really weird. Disco Inferno was hilarious too. I don't really understand though how Disco made it to the Wolfpack Elite and Mr. Perfect didn't. That made no sense. So here's Sting. Again, really awesome opening with his Turnertron here. I like this Megadeth Sting intro. So this was Filthy Animals was the faction he was a part of, I think. All right. Early 2000s, late 90s rave chic. That's what they're going for right there. Again, we have Kimberly and DDP looking cool with some tips to take out your opponent with the trash. Make your opponent pipe down. Give your opponent a seat. Careful with 2x4s, it's flammable. You know, those surgical 2x4s, those things can burst into flames with the amount of alcohol on them. You know, medical alcohol, I'm sure, to help with the wounds you get from all these hardcore matches. And Sting looks horrible here. And Disco, is Disco balding? Which he's not, there's a glitch here that makes Disco look like he's got a comb over. And he looks like he's wearing footy pajamas. This is really bad stuff. Sting looks like a zombie alien. I mean, this game is like, I don't know, I don't like the look at this game at all. The hit detection, which I'm pretty forgiving on, is clunky. And it's, I don't know, it's okay to play if I'm being nice, but it's not horrendously engaging. This game is not good at all on the Nintendo 64, because for me the best thing about this game is the music, and you don't even get that on the 64. You just get the crappy character models and a smudgier picture. Definitely put this game down at easy though, because this game is going to be horrible to play if the matches drag out. I mean, I'm not hating this, like playing it right now, but compared to Revenge or even Mayhem, this is not even in the same sentence as WCW versus the World. Like, considering how strongly WCW went on PlayStation when it first came out with WCW versus the World, which is one of my all-time favorite video games, and then it ends with this. It's not great. You know, people will say though that, oh, this game is like a parallel for WCW at this time period. I don't really agree with that. WCW at this time period was much better. Like, I liked watching it even though it had serious problems. This game's roster is better than WCW at this time period. But the actual gameplay experience is poor to mediocre, and it just is like really abysmal looking. Commentary's great though. I know I'm talking over it, but Bobby Heenan and Tony Schiavone are cool on the commentary. Alright, this is the thing that's happening here. So I'm grappling and hitting some buttons.
But nothing could have prepared us for this spectacle.
So,
Sting is going to push this farther than I ever could have imagined. That shot really knocked the wind out of him.
it would have been interesting if... he's knocked out.
But the fans love it. There you have it. Over by knockout.
It would have been interesting if this game tried to use less wrestling mechanics and more fighting game mechanics. if I like tried to copy a Tekken engine or something like that, that I think would have been kind of interesting. But alas, I mean, I would have been okay if this game, like, I went into this game assuming it was going to look like WCW Mayhem, but be just all backstage, and it's just, it's this, So there we have it, guys. A pretty long review for a pretty bad game. That's WCW Backstage Assault. I hope you enjoyed this video if you took the time to sit down and watch this video. Until next time, guys, my name is Noel. You take care. NWO for life. Bye-bye.